Okay, so I'm doing that set, right? Yeah, I'm doing my thing. Was a little too tall, could have used a few pounds. Tight pants, points, hardly renowned. She was a black cat beauty with big dark eyes. Points all sitting way up high. Sitting way up firm and high. Out past the cornfields where the woods got heavy. Out in the backseat of my '60 Chevy. Working on this bridge without any clues. We were working on a night moves, trying to make some front page driving news. Working on a night moves in the summertime. We weren't searching for no pie sky summer. We were just young, restless, and bored, living by the sword. We still away every chance we could, in the back street to the alley to the trusty wood. I used her, she used me, but neither one cared. We were getting our share. Working on a night move, trying to lose those awkward teenage blues. Working on a night move in the summertime. Sweet, summertime. The lightning, and we're waiting on the thunder, waiting on the thunder. I woke last night to the sound of thunder. How far off? I sat and wondered. Started humming a song from 1962. Yes, I was alive then. Strange how the night moves, with autumn closing in. One, two, three, five. Yes. I remember working on my night move. Here we go. Do you remember working on your night move? Working on your night move. Oh, I'll tell you, it was cheap.
You gonna try to do that?
Well, like, it's like a selfie,
I'm
I
gonna
guess.
hold it. Okay.
You're gonna be in it too.
Okay.
Hey, anyways, my name's Eric. Eric Brown. I was class of '82, and I feel like this is almost, I want to say, my name's Eric, and I'm a pilot school alumni, like we're at some kind of a meeting here, because I feel a part of everyone's stories that everyone's saying, and it's just like, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and somehow wound up at the Cambridge Alternative Public School, which led me right into pilot school. It was a perfect fit. I feel like what I learned there was to be a philosopher.
He's shooting too.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let Ray introduce this next person who you might recognize. This is now the opportunity for everybody here to talk about what Pilot has meant to them and to reflect back or reflect on what all these wonderful faculty members and administrators have been saying. Ray is going to introduce the first speaker, and then we'll have two mics here, this one and that one, and I'm going to grab my friend Hanjo, and we're just going to, if you raise your hand, we're going to bring you a mic. And we're actually going to hold on to the mic so that nobody gets to commandeer the mic, even though I'm commandeering it right now.
Thank you. Peter, is there some way to make sure that that goes back to the beginning? Okay. My greatest fear with technology is that when you really need it, it doesn't work. So we have a couple of backup plans, so we know this works.
Hi, it's Bill DeBlasio. I'm a New York City public advocate now, and I'm a candidate for mayor here in New York, but my real claim to fame is I'm a 1979 graduate of the pilot school. Pilot with such gratitude for what that place was all about. You know, what it made us feel, the hope it gave us, the energy it gave us, every kind of kid together, working together with teachers in such a positive way. It inspired me. It gave me a sense of purpose and hope that I don't know if I could have gotten anyplace else the same way. You know, I just want to thank everyone who has been a part of Pilot over the years. People I want to give special thank yous to: Ray and Jerry and Rob and John and Maurice and Pauline and so many others who I just feel such appreciation to. Could not have asked for better teachers and better friends. And as we celebrate again, to everyone who created Pilot School and made it work for everyone, it's something we should be so proud of. Left a lasting legacy, and I think the inspiration we gained then for a lot of us is just as strong today. So I wish I could be with you for the celebration, but tonight everyone enjoy and celebrate something really special. Thank you.
How do you know what kids know? How do you know how they understand what you're teaching? And they started with a small think group, and then it grew and grew and grew. And it came to a point that every young teacher at the Harvard Grad School of Education was trained in that model and then disseminated across the country. So it was like, so Cluster was like this incubator. Pilot School was like this incubator, okay, of ideas that really affected places far and away, and it was that, to me, that was absolutely extraordinary. It was a sense of community, and I just want to tell one story. I remember my first year, 501, sent up to that thing. We had some money, okay, like in our little advising group funds, so we went on the trip to Provincetown, which seems like all private pilots of school kids do that, and we divvied up the money, and what the task was, the kids came up with this, you drew a name out of a hat, okay, of someone else in the group, and you had to take your $10 and go buy a present for that child. And then we'd sit on the beach and exchange the presents, but you had to say why you bought it. Why did you buy this present? And in that moment, it sort of crystallized for me how well these kids knew each other, how much they cared about each other, and how they were able to articulate, okay, that love, that care, by choosing a $10 present out of a gift shop in Provincetown. So what I took away then, certainly, and it just is echoing on a finish up, but now, okay, how important the richness of diversity was in the school, okay, whether it was racial, whether it was class, okay, whether it was international kids. It was such an interesting place to be as a teacher. That was huge to me. Okay, how relevant everything was, okay, that the kids were able to say to us, Betsy, I want a class on the Soviet Union, what can you do about that? And we would basically put that together, or Vietnam, okay, we put these things together and do it. So kids were really invested in the classes, because it meant something to them. And then finally, sort of the importance of community, right? And then also the last thing about how extraordinary it was to be in a place like Cambridge, which not only had like just incredible resources, but also sort of the will to move forward, okay, and allow change and to allow this thing to happen. It was an extraordinary run. I'm grateful for it.
I'm Donald Burrows. I'm, my girls, my fly girl. I came to Pilot in 1983. It was the moment where I understood that diversity took work. I was one of those who walked in a room of 20-some people interviewing me, and it was, I think it was the last Tuesday in the month of August. By the day after Labor Day, I had found a community of people of my ilk, intellectually, spiritually, in terms of community. Pilot's principles on paper were consonant with my values, and it was very shortly that I found out this was real. These were people who were living their values, the community, the adults in the community, the teachers and administrators, as well as the parents. I just have to honor at this one point Ray Shurtleff as being my first white heterosexual ally in my life. The circles of my multicultural selves were thrilled. They were able to grow, thrive, be valued, and celebrated in the Pilot community. As a black man who is gay, or a gay man who is black, all depends where you see it, I was able to be myself at all points. I could be smart, funny, provocative, sharp-tongued, dramatic, musical, all of the things that I am. I could have been in the classroom and in pilot school and among the faculty, the parents, and the students. And I honored that. It was a very wonderful time. 30 years ago in my life, it was 30 years ago that this happened for me. Pilot school, and our administrators and the faculty, we didn't do knee-jerk stuff. We had conversations ongoing about things that affected our lives. And I remember Ray called us in, and we sat and we talked about our Saturday, how are we going to deal with this as the adults, and how are we going to help the students in our community to deal with what's happening? Where can we place our anger so it doesn't destroy us? And this is one of those times that we took theory, we took what was on a printed page, and we put it in action. And that I will never forget. The fact that we could have conversations, because we were having them already. We were having conversations about the internalized oppression and dominance of race, of class, of ableism, of heterosexism, of sexism, to name a few of those isms. And these are the kinds of things, as an adult in pilot school, as a teacher, as a colleague, as a member of the community, that have stayed with me, and they will continue to live in my life.
And so the thing that the one thing that I also wanted to add that I really got out of pilot school was all the off-campus activities, the trips. The fact that every advising group would take a trip. You know, we went out skiing together. We went down to Washington, D.C. We went out, as somebody said, P-Town. We went off to some of the places on the Cape. We went to Western Massachusetts. And for me, I love classroom learning, but what I really loved were those trips, the wilderness trips, and getting off campus, and I don't know what I learned on those trips. I mean, I'm really sorry, Rob, you know. Actually, I know. I mean, sitting in the rain for 47 hours on a solo and not breaking the solo, I realized I did have a little iron in my soul. But that's something that's really hard to find in schools today. You know, I look for that for my children, and it's just not available the same way. And it's, you know, I don't know if that was a product of a time and a generation or whatever, but it's something that I'm very, very grateful for, and it's really helped shape who I am. Thank you, guys.
And I remember walking in, and there were all-school meetings right off the bat. 60 kids, and I don't remember how many grown-ups in a room at Harvard. And the grown-ups said to us, "What do you want your school to be like?" We didn't know what to do with that question. Are you supposed to tell us what that school's going to be like? So we struggled with that through the summer, and I think they probably struggled with us not having a clue, and somehow the fall came. In some ways, the first plays were that very first summer, and we had advising groups that summer, and each advising group, I forget if it was once a week or every day, once a week, would put on a little skit. And I remember Dick borrowing a Marimekko dress and dressing up as Marilyn Bernstein. Do you remember that?
Dick Herman did that.
Yes. Yeah, and someone, maybe me, was Arthur Blackman, who hasn't been mentioned, and because he filmed the whole summer. Anyway, I spoke at that school board meeting. Boy, the Fitzgerald Theater was different in those days. They had to move the hearing into the theater because it was too big to fit in the regular school board room. Someone mentioned Don Oliver. I remember Weatherman coming to speak to a class at school. The political group, the Weathermen, sorry, not the people on the news. That was a really different time. We were just talking about that. I mean, Harvard Square was getting burnt and rioted and stuff. Anyway, I remember Don Oliver getting absolutely irate and screaming at this Weatherman because of what he was presenting to us. And that was so amazing and interesting to see. So the last thing I'm going to say is I was looking at my yearbook on Thursday night or Friday morning while I was packing to come, and came across the class gift. And the class gift to me was a meeting that started on time, ended on time, and did what it was set out to accomplish. And I'm going to share that with my friends at home because that is still so true of my life.
Hi, my name is Adam Weinstock, class of '96. Oh, I'm sorry. And then I was actually Joan Sobel's student teacher the year after Pilot ended. For me, going into education, one thing that I was first looking for when I was looking for a school to sort of be a part of was less the age and the place and more the kind of community it was, and that there was a sense of community both amongst students and amongst staff, and that was really a legacy from Pilot and what Pilot stood for. And a few years ago, as I was in a school leadership program, we all needed to write something called a teachable point of view that as a school leader, one could sort of share with their staff and present as this is what we're about. And it started by sharing the experience of walking into homeroom. And for me, that was homeroom with Jean Meyer, who I hold fondly in my heart. And just a sense of connection and feeling like someone really was invested in you. And so it's really powerful to have all these memories of Pilot and that experience triggered, and feel really proud to feel like for the last decade plus, I'm helping to sort of carry on that legacy in New York City and in a couple of different middle schools. So.
Videographer, class of '77. And thinking about the different kind of opportunities that Pilot gave me. Thinking academically, my brother John and I took the trivial geometry course, which was a collaboration with MIT, where we got to go over to MIT and work with Seymour Papert and have open access to computers, which at that point the computer filled a room. And the online learning work that I do today draws a lot from things that I learned back in that opportunity, which was very rare at that time. But I think really the things that I remember most were the personal opportunities, the kind of friend connections that were so important. And also being someplace where with everything that was going on, tumultuous, emotional, in high school, where I felt I could be seen. Where I took the social movements course and did a presentation to the class about gay lib, which we called it at the time, and worked on the school poetry magazine and published in the school poetry magazine in 1976 probably, an out gay poem. And I think I and one other person were the only people who knew that in the same issue of that poetry magazine, there was an anonymous love poem that was written by another guy, another student, to me. And that in Phyllis's writing class, I remember we would do spono-monos. I think some others here did that too. The spontaneous written monologues, where what I remember the instructions were, just keep your pen moving. Just keep writing. Even if you're just saying, I don't know what to write, you just keep writing. And then I would write what was going on in my life. And then I knew that if I didn't want to share that if I wanted it shared, that Phyllis would spend, I don't know how many hours typing up everything that everybody wrote, because it was all important. And with that spirit duplicator, which I can still smell today, we made copies. But if I didn't want it, if I just wanted to write something and I didn't want it shared with the rest of the class, I'd write, it was do not print on the top. But Phyllis would still read it. And so I would write about everything. And about all the passions going on in my life, and the very complicated things that were going on. And that Phyllis would not correct my awful spelling. That was part of the rule, that the grammar you didn't have to watch for, you just had to express. And Phyllis would just write comments that would let me know that she read it. So there I was, all of me, seen and embraced. And that's my pilot school.
So, Gant Galloway, class of 1979. Very grateful to many people in the pilot community, teachers, others. I'm not going to list everybody for lessons inside and outside the classroom. But I think I have to say something to Ray.
Right.
Yeah. So, my junior year, I moved out on my own, and Cambridge rents in my budget. I'm grateful that I got to stay at Pilot.
Two of the most important experiences, the very first summer, as an advisor, we went on a tour. Every kid in my advising group took us into their neighborhoods. Prior to that, I thought Cambridge was Harvard Square. I didn't know that anything else existed. And by being taken into Washington Elms, Roosevelt Towers, East Cambridge, my world opened up in ways that I feel enormously grateful. And it continues to expand so that my involvement in Cambridge politics is really an outgrowth of that. The other thing that really sort of builds on what Fanchon was talking about last night had to do with a kind of racial awareness that came about for me the spring that I took a group of kids, along with a whole bunch of other teachers, to Philadelphia. And I wasn't even thinking at the time that I was a white woman driving this van, and I think every kid in the van was a black kid. And I remember driving into the heart of Philadelphia, and from the back of my van, I heard this kid look out the window and say, "Oh my God, it's nigger heaven." And these kids basically disappeared. And it was the first time that I understood what it might be like to be invisible, to be so much a part of a community that you didn't stand out just because you were black. And it helped open up my eyes in a way that nothing that anybody could have given me to read or said to me could have done beyond that experience. So my world continues to expand as a result of my experiences at Pilot.
Good times roll and roll, all night long, 'cause I feel so good when you're home. Come on, baby, rock me all night, rock me all night. Come on, baby, rock me all night. Come on, baby, let's have some fun, yeah. Come on, baby, let the good times roll and roll all night long. Come on, baby, let's close the door. Come on, baby, let's rock some more, yeah. Come on, baby, let the good times roll and roll all night long. 'Cause I feel so good when you're home. Come on, baby, rock me all night, rock me all night. Come on, baby, let the good times roll. Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul. Yeah. Come on, baby, let the good times roll.